Thank you so much. Another round of applause, please, for our panelists. And as we continue, I think you have already gotten kind of the whole thematic path that they're taking. And you can make your own individual contributions, I'm sure, during our networking session. So I'm going to now swiftly move to our next moderated session, which is going to specifically look at realigning the strategic priorities of destination management organizations, or DMOs, to changing Africa tourism sector dynamics. So if I may please have Bonita Mutoni, who is going to be moderating that session, come up to the stage, and we can welcome her with a warm round of applause, please. Right. Let me just share a little something about her as she's walking up here. Bonita Mutoni is the founder of UberLuxe Safaris, one of Rwanda's ultimate authentic safari and destination experience management businesses. ULS is a boutique luxury safari company that offers bespoke tours and travel packages within the Eastern African region, offering the highest level of bespoke services to discerning travelers. So this is the caliber of the person that's going to be handling this next panel conversation. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's lunchtime, and I've seen quite a few of you yawning already. So we're going to try and make this very interactive, lots of fun, and timely as well. I've been warned about time. So I'd like to invite on stage Graeme Watson from Kusa Africa Travel. A round of applause for him. Jeanette Moloto, Director Global Sales, Marriott, Sub-Saharan Africa. And Mr. Didier Scaillet, CEO Meeting Profile from Belgium. Well, as I said, we'll try and keep it as fun as possible. You could see Jeanette is very colorful, so I was hoping to bring some color to the session. But I think we'll get straight to the point and really start talking about destination management organizations. In our case, because we have people from the private sector, we can slightly call it destination management companies, I think, which is quite key for us. As you know, there have been lots of changes in the industry. Pre-COVID, you had people booking through your destination management companies, and what we have seen post-COVID is there have been quite a few changes. One of the key things, though, is right now, there's such a huge buzz in people wanting to come to our part of the world, people wanting to tour. People are really excited. People have been saving up. For the last 2 years, they've been stuck in their homes and then wanting to go out and then wanting to travel. And it's just to understand, have there been changes in how they're booking with us as your destination management companies? Are their values changing? Are there different expectations from them? What value are we bringing as a destination management companies on the ground? So this is a question I want to ask you. I'll start over with Jeanette. You could tell us about what the Marriott is doing and how you are working with the DMOs and the DMCs in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. From a Marriott International perspective, I can honestly say that we've never stopped working with any key partner within the region that wants to sell Marriott International, right? Right now, what we're trying to do is to make sure that we have personalized relationships with our DMOs, our different stakeholders, if I can put it that way, from whatever different booking channels that we want to achieve this in. So it's very imperative for us to have personalized relationships. to make sure that our values are aligned with those specific key partners within the region, and that we share the same targeted audience as well. So from our side, it's business as usual. And as I've been listening to all the different conversations that's been happening this morning, with technology coming in, it's a tad bit easier for us to reach our customers with digitalizations and all of those platforms being given to us from an opportunity perspective. Everything is just becoming a bit more easier. Agility is the name of the game. So for us as Marriott International, it's business as usual. We want the revenues, we want the business, we want to connect with our customers. So I can honestly say it's business as usual.
Excellent. So Graeme, you're based in Swansea.
Yes.
Which is quite interesting. Beautiful, beautiful town. Now, just a quick one. What are you finding? Because you're out in the market. You're actually in the international market. You are talking directly to our clients. What are you finding are the expectations from us as the DMCs on the ground?
Well, I started my DMC, as you do, in September 2020. So right in the heart of COVID. And, what I'm finding is that people went through a lot in terms of not being able to get hold of the right person at the right time when there was a crisis. So I'm finding that people are looking for that. As you said, it's all about personalized relationships. People are looking to know that they can phone Graeme, WhatsApp Graeme, FaceTime Graeme. I'm on 45,000 different platforms, not 44 maybe, but that people can get hold of me on. And, for me, it's especially people want to hold somebody accountable, and they don't want to, as much as people are also booking online, I think people want that reassurance. I think what COVID taught us is that the online platforms don't give you that personal attention. So the guest on the ground whose flight was cancelled and the airports were grounded and their home airport was closed and they didn't know anything, they had the chain of events of how to get hold of the destination management company, who could assist, who could rebook hotels. I mean, we don't want to relive that madness, but I mean, that's what we know is the importance of DMCs in the changing world. Sorry, I have made notes. I'm not looking on Instagram here.
Are we sure about that?
Yes, no, look.
Clients are probably texting him on Instagram.
Yeah. Clients texting me, so no, I'm joking. So yeah, I mean, I just said we bring accountability and we instill confidence because people know that they've got that person to get hold of. And that's what I'm finding. I also run a representation company in the UK too, where I look after businesses around the world that want reps on the ground in the UK. And what I'm finding is that even the UK tour operators want to know that there's somebody in their home country that they can pick up the phone if something goes wrong. It's all about that. It's all about the human-to-human interaction. As much as we talk about digitalization helps us fulfill the booking process and the actual getting out there and getting the attention. But I think once the clients are on the ground, the term digitalization goes out the window, and then person to person come back into full force. I've got a lot of other things to say, but I'm sure you've got questions.
So Didier, I would love to hear your thoughts on how the client is booking. Do you feel that there's still a role for us as DMCs on the continent and what we're offering?
I agree with everything they said, by the way.
Ditto.
Yeah, definitely. There is a role. I mean, we talked about digitization. I think what COVID has done is also demonstrating that there are many things that you can't do digitally. And our industry, meeting, business events and all of that, and tourism, are things that you cannot really digitize. There are few things that you can do differently in terms of capturing content as a conference like this, editing it, putting it on the web, tagging it, so and then eventually sell a digital event next. But nothing is going to replace this, ever. And I think that's what we've learned. So again, if it's simply one-way communication, then yeah, you can probably do that online. If you start talking around innovation, around trust, around commercial relationships, around team building, around all of these elements, nothing is ever going to replace it. Now, in terms of DMOs / DMC, because I'll put them in the same box, I think the role has evolved in terms of the kind of facilitation role that they need to have for the destination. Most requests for proposal that I came across 5 years ago were what I would call purely functional. How many square meters do you have? What can you cater? What is your menu? What's your flight availability? What's all of these things? We've seen a tremendous evolution of those now, because almost all of them have at least 3 components. They have a CSR component. So what is our footprint? What is the legacy that we're leaving behind when we have a meeting in a place? And then there is obviously a digital component as well, is what is your digital ecosystem? Because the delegate used to come to an event like this, and basically if he or she would need to take a Zoom call, he or she would need to go back to the room. So I think you see an evolution also of basically venues and places towards places where it's recognized that people will be in the room, but they also need to be outside of the room at times, and they need to have pods, or they need to have places, and a business center with 1 printer and 1 screen is probably not going to make it. And that's where, again, I think DMCs and DMOs have a huge role to play as expert in the destination, in building an ecosystem, because I've seen venues building TV studios, for example, which I think is ludicrous, because by the time it came on the market, it was outdated. But they need to understand that if there is a need for a digital presence at the meeting, these are the partners that the organizer can work with. So long-winded answer, but covering a few things.
Excellent. I think the key thing that you have talked about is the DMOs and DMCs and how they're working together. And that's an incredible, a critical actually relationship that we all must have. And I will talk in the case of Rwanda, because I'm Rwandan and my company is based in Rwanda. We actually have what we call a tourism working group, and we meet every month. So the DMOs will meet with the DMCs and kind of talk through what our expectations are of, Visit Rwanda as a DMO, how we can support each other. When they're actually planning your trade shows in advance, they're telling us a year in advance, and then we're sort of saying which ones we want to go to, which ones we think will be better placed for us as a destination. So it's critical to have that relationship. But what I would like to understand is, I think, and what we've all talked about, are things that we were already doing pre-COVID. What is changing and what has changed from your end client? What expectations do they have post-COVID? We've talked about, being able to get on a Zoom call, to have a meeting with them. What else has changed in terms of expectations? Do you find they are they asking for, in terms of the sort of money that they're paying to come to the trips? Are they asking for discounted offers? Is that something that you're finding that they're asking for post-COVID? Are they willing to pay more for these experiences because they've been at home for the last 2 years? What is changing? And that would be interesting for the audience to find out. What has changed from your client post-COVID?
I think from my side, as much as things have changed, as much as things have stayed the same. One of the things, a theme that we're hearing, and I think my colleague here touched on it, is sustainability. I think everybody spoke about all the changes in the earlier sessions that I was listening to, but I didn't hear a lot about sustainability. And right now, sustainability is key in each and every single thing that you do. Do you have a roadmap as a company to show what are you doing to better our world? Do you have a specific mission, vision, plan to show what you're doing to better the environment that you have hotels in? Do you have a specific vision, and do you have a specific action plan that you are actively working on to make sure that the world that you live in, the communities that you serve, where we have hotels are better, that we don't leave them worse off, but we leave them better than. So a lot of the corporates that we face, and while we're doing negotiations during this time, our sustainability plan has to be part of that pack. So from, I'm going to touch on specifically just on corporates. So from a corporate perspective, we've seen a lot of requests around that. Also from a DMC perspective, we've seen a lot on how can we partner with you to make sure that your sustainability plan is either enhanced or you are on the right track at the moment. So I think that is the one theme that nobody has touched on. I could be wrong. I missed 1 or 2 sessions earlier this morning. But that is one thing that is key that, that has come up. Not necessarily has changed. It was there in the past, but now it's even more prevalent than anything else.
Even being an expectation, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I must say I definitely agree. The sustainability aspect is becoming, or is huge. And I was also, it wasn't touched on during the MICE. I even thought, what would the Association of Carbon Neutral Conferences, how would they run a conference? And that's what I would be interested to know, because it's definitely sustainability, even in terms of the way we don't print brochures, we don't print business cards anymore, everything's digital, and if I do print business cards, I've got little seeds in them that you can plant and it'll grow vegetables. So it's definitely a theme, and I think that those who don't have a roadmap and those who don't have a plan for this eco-friendly, sustainable travel are going to fall behind. So that's definitely another thing that's come to, and that's why I think when we talk about digitization, we must also talk about digitalization of marketing collateral and what we give the client. Do we meet them at the airport with a whole printed pack of things? No, we don't. You know, it's exactly. So it's all sent via PDFs and all that kind of stuff, and it's all online. So I think that's what people need to realize as well. The days of walking around with lovely printed tickets and everything, I mean, it should be in the past, because it's definitely not in line with the way the world is moving. Sorry if anyone owns a printing company.
Didier, I would love to hear from you.
Well, sustainability, definitely. I mean, it's actually a contract killer now in the hotel industry. I mean, if you don't have it, you're not even in the game. But it's the whole issue with it is you're as strong as your weakest link. And that's where, again, DMCs and DMOs can play a role at the destination level. Because otherwise you can have a sustainable hotel, but if you don't have a sustainable DMC on the backside of that, or a sustainable destination, what's the point? And actually you have the privilege to live in probably the cleanest country in the world. And so, I mean, Rwanda, for example, has taken decisions in terms of abolishing plastic bags 15 years ago, and has been extremely successful in doing that. But so I think that's where, again, you know, there needs to be that, what I call ecosystem around sustainability as well, where everyone is aware of that. And I think, you know, I've been to trade shows quite a bit, and then they basically said, yeah, but you know, the carpet is recyclable. And then on the last day of the show, you see these piles of carpets outside of the building, not even being collected. And then they said, well, yeah, but actually, we don't have the facility to process them. So it's like, okay, well then what's the point of having recyclable carpet? Don't do carpets in the first place. So I think it's a whole chain, and it's like with everything. In terms of change of expectations, organizers that I work with, there is an anxiety around the level of services. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. We've bled an awful lot of talents from this industry. And we capturing that at a moment where indeed it is travel revenge. So everybody wants to travel again. But there are issues in terms of chefs, waiters, receptionists, And I think the expectation, therefore, from a client standpoint is increasingly at least be transparent with me. And don't overpromise, and do let me know. I mean, I was in France recently. France is lacking almost 400,000 workers in the hospitality industry at the moment. I mean, it's tragic. And so I think it's, again, the level of trust and confidence that we have in what we can deliver that I think is absolutely key. And I think that's an expectation of the client as well now, because they know. I mean, they read the newspaper like all of us. And again, they know that we've lost an awful lot of talent.
Yeah. Those are really some really, really critical messages. I think sustainability, as we said, digitalization. When a client is coming into your destination, we're not expecting the travel company or the pickup company to have a huge paper with our names. We're expecting you to come with an iPad. So invest in this sort of things. I think that's quite important. I think we have talked about, and I think one key thing to talk about is there's the demand from the clients now, right? How do we make it more competitive? Is digitalization making our clients wanting to now book online rather than book through the DMCs? Are you finding that's a trend that's happening? Are you finding they're actually searching more online for more competitive? And this is what's happening. I know for a fact that as a DMC on the ground, when somebody's sending a request because they found my company online, they're writing to hundreds of other companies as well. So then how do I, as a DMC, how do I make myself more competitive digitally in comparison to the other companies that are out there? And then how do I provide more value as well to the clients?
I mean, first is obviously a killer website. And a killer website that has the right meta description, has the right word, has retagging capabilities. So basically, if someone comes and find you digitally, they automatically retarget it, and you can keep on pushing messages and eventually set up a call and doing all of that, but there is just an awful lot of automation that needs to take place. There's obviously also virtual environment that are being built at the moment, and I think, and I don't see that as a threat. I was part of the industry when teleconferencing was introduced and everybody said, well, it's going to kill the business. It didn't. I don't think metaverse is going to kill our business. And I'll have a session on metaverse tomorrow. But I think these are having a presence that's reinforced permanently with the right tools, with the right automation, is actually becoming critical. Then after that, it's down to who's going to travel for what. And I think there, you see a reduction, definitely, in terms of size of groups. And it's actually probably a good thing. Back to some of the sustainability component, there is a conference in Europe which is radio-oncology, so it's basically treatment of cancer through radiology. And their meeting moved from 7,000 to 5,000 people. But their sponsor said these were the absolute right 5,000 people. And so as a result of that, they said, we're not going to go back to 7,000. We know that corporate is not going to send more people. Simply because even now in a lot of corporation, you actually pay an extra fee from your department if you travel. Microsoft has just moved that from $75 to $150. So the head of department basically said, yes, I agree, you can go to that event or make that trip, but I'm going to get charged internally $150. And so that changes the dynamic in terms of why people travel. Are they doing it for the right reason? Do they stay long enough? So all of these are evolution, I think, in terms of the client, the end client I'm talking. So.
Absolutely. Jeanette, what is the Marriott doing to make it more competitive? I'm sure you have quite a few hotels that are coming up that are your comp set. So what are you doing to be competitive digitally?
In terms of just working with our DMCs or just within the...
DMCs and your clients as well.
I think, I wouldn't say we're trying to make it more competitive, we're trying to be more collaborative, right? because in this environment, to try and create a competitive environment would be a tad bit unnecessary, right? We all need each other right now in this space.
Sorry, I meant, I think, in ease of booking, you know, in terms of ease of, you've digitalized.
Yeah.
So is it easier for a DMC to actually book with you because it's digital? Is your end user the client? Is it easier for you to do it now, post-COVID?
It has always been easier to book Marriott, if I can put it that way. We have obviously our website, and we have all the different channels depending on which customer you are. So from a DMC perspective, we have a lot of channels that the DMCs can use to make sure that they book a Marriott International. So it has always been easier. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, from a personalization perspective, I think that's what we've enhanced on, making our platform a bit more personalized and equipping our salespeople with the right tools to be able to be more personalized. So I'll go back to my initial statement around, for us to be more competitive in the market, make it easier for the DMCs to book with us, is making sure that we are top of mind, aware in terms of our branding, and also that we personalized our offering with that specific DMCs. What I can add to what my colleagues have said is that as a DMC, I'm not a DMC. The only advice I can give anybody who's a DMC is that you need to start looking at how you can make sure that your offering is always new. And what I mean about that is that I was recently in New York and a DMC took us around, and that DMC works with the tourism of New York, but that person does not even have a website, does not even have any marketing collateral, did not even give us a business card, just a cell number, and he did a walking tour where we tasted all different kind of colored foods in Brooklyn, right? And for him, that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to grow further. As a DMC, that is his bread and butter, and he is specialized on that. So if you can specialize on making sure that your business is continuously new and it speaks to that specific target audience that you want to target, I can tell you, you don't need to be a global company for you to be able to do what you do successfully. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Janet. I'd love to get somebody from the audience to ask a few questions. We have this incredible panelists, and this is your chance to actually ask a question in regards to DMCs. For young entrepreneurs that are looking to get into this industry, I think it's a fantastic time for you to do that. And there's still a need for your DMCs. I think that's important. There's a huge value in being a DMC. And of course, we're looking at digitalizing and how we blend that to create the best experience for our client. Does anybody have any questions, or would they like to ask any questions? We've got somebody in the back on the right.
Hello, can you pass it on? Thank you. My name is Nandipa from the University of South Africa. My question is to you, Janet. You know, we just spoke now about sustainability and digitalization. At a global level, I know Marriott is very much technologically advanced, but we're not seeing the same thing in Africa. And I don't know if it's because, you know, just it's the market or the infrastructure. And I mean in terms of online check-in, where we don't have to come in at the hotel and fill in papers and still have our passport scanned, where we can actually do this either online or before arrival, or we can, when we get there, do our own self-service check-in, especially if we are a group, and then, you know, it also reduces the congestion at reception. So what is the digital strategy for Africa when it comes to Marriott? Thank you.
Hello, Nandipa. How are you today, darling? You just had to ask me a question. Okay. So, from a digital perspective, again, our strategy will always start with global, and then it trickles down to the different regions. Within Africa, and I'll touch on what you touched on around mobile check-in. We have just over 200 hotels within Africa, and out of those 200 hotels, 50 have mobile check-in. Now, it's going to go in phases. We are hoping by our our deadline is 2025, and for that specific mobile check-in for all of our hotels in Africa, we're hoping we're going to make it based on the infrastructure that we have within the continent and the key partners that we would love to work with within Africa. So it's based on two things. Who can we work with in Africa to make sure that our mobile check-in is as easiest, as simplest as possible? And secondly, the infrastructure of that specific country, because we cannot dictate certain things. But right now, as I speak to you, over 200 hotels within Africa, 50 of those have mobile check-in. So I hope that answers you, Nandipa. Hundreds!
Thank you very much, Janet. We had another question. It's right here in the front. If somebody could bring a mic to the front. There you go. Can we get a mic coming to the third row on the right?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Marina Novelli. I'm Professor of Tourism and International Development at the University of Brighton. Thank you very much, Janet, for raising a very important issue besides bringing color to the panel, which I found it a bit rather strange as an introduction. But anyway, the bottom line is you raised one of the most important things today, which finally came to the fore, which is sustainability. And digitalization has been seen as one of the core vehicles to promote sustainability. My concern is that, unfortunately, digitalization has been used in a lot of DMC as a vehicle for greenwashing, rather than really using the potential you could have to send that message. I know Marriott is doing a lot in terms of the sustainability agenda, looking beyond digitalization. But I would like to know from the other speakers, from their perspective, and obviously there was a concern expressed in the events context, how important it should be to train people to understand that agenda, but also from an international development perspective, what would be, in your opinion, the most important thing really to train the future generation? Here we've got quite a few students which would really benefit from that message. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can take this one. I spent a lot of time talking about sustainability on an app called Clubhouse. I'm not sure if anybody knows about that. And when I can't praise Clubhouse enough. It's similar to this, moderated talks, and you can get people in from all over the world. So if you have a topic that you want to talk about, anyway, check Clubhouse out. You'll like it. I'm on there. Sustainability came up a lot during COVID. My opinion about how to stop greenwashing. Greenwashing, for those who don't know, is faking your green credentials online, talking about things that you don't necessarily do. How to prevent that came up quite a lot in the conversations that I've had about sustainability. I'm in favor of a peer-to-peer organization that accredits businesses in terms of their sustainability credentials. What I'm not in favor of are people charging thousands of pula or thousands of rands to get a certificate that says you are sustainable that you can't afford to get. So rather spend that money on becoming more sustainable and have a free accreditation system run by us as an industry where we all just double check each other's properties in our own way. So it's a voluntary peer-to-peer system that can allow small businesses to get on that sustainability bandwagon without having to pay thousands to join an association to prove that they are sustainable. So that's one way of stopping greenwashing, is when people can afford to get the correct accreditation. So that's just one way. And then you can use that digitalization. There was a great speaker that I met from China, and they are talking about blockchain technology to make sure that everything is 100% and irrefutable, that accompanies sustainable credentials are correct. So there's a lot happening, and I think that we just need to keep an eye on that and try and just keep the costs down of getting sustainable credentials. That's what I think.
Fantastic. Your thoughts, Didier?
Yeah, few points. One, there needs to be a certain political will that's behind that as well at the destination level. So again, we're back to destination management. If there is that will, then it will take a bit of time. I mean, we just heard a previous speaker from Estonia. I was traveling to Copenhagen last month, and Copenhagen is actually going to become carbon neutral by 2025. And there is just a massive development of wind energy. They increased the tax for cars by 200%. But there was just a very strong political will behind, we are going to make these destinations sustainable. It will become increasingly important for the younger generation. I'm moderating a panel of young leaders. And when actually, if you look at what the priorities are for executives and what the priorities are for the young leaders, sustainability is clearly all the way up there. It's also going to go in terms of changing behaviors and how we source food and where we source it. Again, I used to live in a country called Luxembourg. Most of the hotels in Luxembourg don't serve orange juice anymore. And they've replaced that by apple juice because they are a huge producer of apple juice. And so as a result of that, all of their juice are sourced within 40 kilometers of any of their venues and properties. So it's that kind of behavior that I think you will see, and that's not greenwashing, but there again, there was a concerted effort by the political world to say, we're going to tackle this. So yeah, these were just few elements on that.
Thanks very much, Didier. We have a couple of questions that we got from some of our audience that are watching online. And one of them is, how can we fill the gaps in infrastructure when implementing digitalization in our different businesses? Really interesting question.
I don't have the answer to that. To you, Graeme.
Yeah, I'm not gaps in infrastructure. Well, I just need that. I suppose we can't get that clarified, can we? I don't know what that particularly means. Gaps in the internal infrastructure of the... how can we use digitalization to stop the gaps in infrastructure?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, there's so many platforms that you can use. If you've got and what I was going to try and touch on as well is that I think that we as also a tourism collective need to identify these gaps in infrastructure. And, what I hate is that almost everything you look for online is run from Silicon Valley charging us in dollars, which we can't afford. And I think that if we can come up with solutions for Africa as a continent that charges, even if it's monthly subscriptions for digitalization documents, for example, so that you can send somebody a document and they can digitally sign it and everything's like that. But it's all dollar-based monthly subscriptions, which most of us working in Africa can't afford. So I think what we need to do is use the university students, use the universities, and we can all come up with the gaps, what is needed. But I think we need African-run businesses helping African-run businesses. That's what I think.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Not Silicon Valley. And again, sorry if you run a Silicon Valley company.
It's a really good question, and I think this is for the DMOs. And it says things such as internet connectivity and mobile coverage play an important role in the industry, but we don't have control over what happens and what developments are being implemented. I think this is a question more for our DMOs and our governments, especially in a world where we're saying digitalization is where we should be going. How do we then, and what can we do as the industry to talk to our governments and all the policy players to figure out internet connectivity, because for people that we're talking about rural communities and people that have all these incredible authentic experiences that they're offering, but then they don't have the internet connectivity. What does one do about that? I think that's a really, really interesting question.
Oh, well, sorry, I'll come in again and then give my other panelists a chance. Elon Musk has got Starlink, which is the satellite system that can blanket the whole world, really. And what I find bizarre is that, being based in the UK part of the year, is that the UK is covered by Starlink. But if you look at the map of Africa, it's not covered. And, almost every home in the UK can get broadband access. So I think what needs to be done is lobby the government to have conversations with the people that can facilitate that can facilitate global Wi-Fi access, because it certainly does help, to be able to get access from wherever you are in the world. So it does boil down to lobbying upward and making sure that message is heard by the right people and the funds are channeled to the right places.
I agree with you.
If I could just add, and also I think it was Didier who mentioned this. We need to start where we are, right? And we need to also find solutions for ourselves, right? So if our government is not doing what our government needs to do, let's create those small work groups where we are and start figuring out and finding solutions for ourselves instead of waiting all the time for our government. Our government will catch up. Our government eventually will give us what we want. Those conversations, Graeme, absolutely important. We need to lobby for our government to make changes. But young people who are well educated, go to school, let's start forming those work groups at school to say, right guys, these are our issues, what do you think we can do? And start implementing those solutions as well. And stop always waiting for our government to come to help us, if I can put it that way. Because eventually they will, but right now we need tangible solutions for right now, because we need to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe, our neighborhoods are surviving, we are getting the business. So what are we doing right now for ourselves while we wait for our government to catch up with us? That is what we should be asking ourselves, I think.
Excellent. I think that's deserves a round of applause, yes. I think we need to, we certainly need to be accountable ourselves, but then also hold the governments accountable. So I've got one last question, which is, what is the role of online travel directories in today's era? Online travel directories.
Well, again, from a business event and meeting standpoint, it's not the kind of tool that people would necessarily use. So I guess I can't really answer the question.
So we're not using them. Are we finding people not using them anymore?
Yeah, I think things like, yellow pages, if that's what you're talking about, like online directories, It's, I think, the search engines are now the online directories, and I think that's why it's important to do your own research. That's what I found. During COVID, I was retrenched from my previous job, and I started my own company from scratch. I had to learn everything, and what I learned was do your own research. There are so many free courses out there. Check out Coursera, for example. There are so many things that can teach you what you need to know that are free. And SEO is one of them. And SEO will help you with the online directories because it will help your business be found. So there's so many things you can empower yourself, teach yourself. Don't wait for someone to offer you a course on something. Go find it, be the best version of yourself you can be by empowering yourself with as much knowledge as you can empower yourself with, and there's so many free courses that can teach you, so many accreditations you can do. Just find them, and then that way you'll become your own online travel directory, because everything people are searching for, they can find your business.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our panelists. Didier, thank you so much. Jeanette.
Thank you.
Graeme, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. A round of applause for our panelists.
And thank you too. Thank you so
Thank
much
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
such an amazing moderator.
I know it's lunchtime and people are quite keen to head out to lunch, but yes, I think the key things that we have talked about in terms of realigning, making sure DMOs, DMCs are working to actually build themselves digitally, to have that presence, that's incredibly important. But I think one thing that's quite key is there's still a lot of value in our DMCs. Do not think just because the world is digitalizing that the DMCs are not needed. They're 100% needed. We are the go-to for most of our international clients. We have the expertise, the experience on the ground, and I think it is important to figure out how we as the DMCs work collaboratively with the DMOs, with our hotels, with our clients to be able to provide the most incredible experience for them when they come to the destination. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon.